Your Majesties, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for returning. Trust you and yours are well, and you're loving yourself and others like always. Many thanks to all of you for the support you give to the channel. Thank you so much to our channel members, to our anonymous supporters, to all of you my esteemed subscribers. You're loved, celebrated, and of course appreciated. So Mali imposes 10,000 visa bond on US citizens in retaliation. Yes, I think it's all over the internet right now that these Sahel countries are always retaliating. And am I happy? Yes, I'm happy to see that we can say no and we can say yes. Not being influenced by, being pushed to the corner because we are third world countries. Not being, intimidated in any way by anybody around the world, but making decisions that will better our citizens and ourselves. This is what a good leader would do because the interest of the people should come first. This visa bond that, the US is just going about, imposing on African countries here and there, of course, definitely, it will affect the citizens, okay? I told you here when Donald Trump was initially elected that all the policies that he was putting in place are for the interest of all Americans. And if any leader cannot do things for the interest of those he or she is leading, then something is definitely wrong. And to see that African countries like the Sahel nations are reciprocating the gesture shown is just being fair. I treat you the way you treat me. But what do you think about this, this decision? Because some people are of the opinion that that is going to affect the economy of the country. Because, what do Mali have that people from the US will come to see? But to tell you the truth, there are a lot of Americans in Mali, a lot of Americans in the Sahel, a lot of Europeans in the Sahel, a lot of foreign individuals in countries in the motherland, especially countries that are trend poor. Any country world power tell you is poor, the poorest in the world, there are a lot of foreign bodies there. Because these countries are not just poor because they are poor because it is the making of these superior powers. So these foreign bodies that are present are there to keep the country poorer because they'll be milking out in one way or the other, extorting in one way or the other through the mineral resources that these countries have. And the recent happenings between the Sahel countries and France have exposed to us, in short, it has opened our eyes to the fact that this Sahel country is never poor. General Assimi Goita would not make decision that he knows at the long run will affect his people. He will only make decision that will be for the benefit of his people. A lot have been happening in the Sahel recently, a lot of good news, good information. And anyway, let's listen to this and we'll take it up from there, Your Majesty.
Mali has taken a retaliatory measure against the US, now requiring US nationals to deposit bonds of up to 10,000 US dollars for business and tourist visas. This is a rare move by an African country. Bamako's decision comes after the Trump administration said the West African nation would be added to the US visa bond program effective October 23rd. The funds will be refunded if travelers leave the US on time and in accordance with their visa terms. In response, Mali's foreign ministry issued a statement on Sunday, October 12th, expressing its disapproval of the US government's unilateral decision. Mali's government deploys the unilateral decision by the US government and has therefore decided to introduce an identical visa program imposing the same conditions and requirements on US nationals based on the principle of reciprocity. It's not immediately clear how many US nationals visit Mali each year, but they are believed to be in the few thousands, mainly tourists and business people. On the other hand, U.S. State Department figures for the period 2015 to 2024 showed that fewer than 3,000 non-immigrant U.S. visas are issued to Malians each year. U.S. President Donald Trump has made cracking down on illegal immigration a focus of his presidency, but his policies have often sparked controversies. The U.S. State Department said in August that visa applicants from Zambia and Malawi will be required to pay bonds up to $15,000. Zambia's government voiced concern about the unnecessary financial strain this would cause. The latest move by Mali comes just days after Burkina Faso rejected a request by the US to accept third country migrants. Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali have increasingly asserted their sovereignty in recent years, leading to tensions with Western countries.
Shout out to Pale Blue Doubt in the Discord for asking me to cover this article. Mali helicopters land at Barrick mine, leave with $117 million of gold. So let's take a step back and look at this article firstly. This was published on mining.com using a piece written by Bloomberg News. You might think that a website called mining.com would be neutral and fact-based reporting on geology. But the truth is, mining.com is an industry website. It exists to serve the needs of mining companies, investors, and executives, extractors, not the public, and definitely not the people who live near the mines in Mali. Let's take a look at what it says. It tells you that helicopters landed and gold was taken. It gives you the weight and the market value in dollars. And it tells you Barrick's version of events in great detail. It shares a quote from CEO Mark Bristow, and it says Barrick is using the legal process to resolve this issue. It does not explain how Barrick got the gold in the first place, and it does not explain why Mali might want to take that gold back. It does not question the legal system that Barrick is using. It did not speak to the Mali government. It didn't speak to any people from Mali. Not workers, not miners, certainly not experts. It says Mali has a dangerous military regime, but it does not say whether Barrick has paid its way for this gold, either in wages or taxes, and does not give you a shred of historical context about colonization in Africa. It tries to sound balanced, but it's a classic Western trick. Pretend to be neutral, but ignore asymmetry, ignore history, ignore power imbalances, ignore how money and law and violence have shaped who owns what here in the first place. This white man from South Africa is the CEO of Barrick Gold, Mark Bristow. Since he took charge of Barrick Gold, he is proud to announce to investors that he has generated roughly $23 billion. He's created a surplus revenue of over $5 billion for investors. He speaks publicly about mining sustainability, but he is aggressively accusing the Mali government of illegally seizing his gold. He's angry that it takes $15 million a month to maintain the site, and he is threatening to use all the legal tools at his disposal to challenge Mali's actions. This is Assimi Goïta. He was born in Mali. He trained in military schools in Mali. He served in the special forces and protected Mali from jihadists. And in 2020, he was part of a coup that ousted the Western-backed leader. He's now the president of Mali and a 5-star general. In 2023, he introduced a new mining code. It states that Mali must hold 30 to 35% of all shares in mining activity. And mining companies need to start processing their gold in Mali. He started construction of a state-backed refinery. He currently leads the Alliance of the Sahel States, which is a military and political pact between Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger. And in July 2025, he sent helicopters into the Barrick gold mine. Hence this article. Barrick Gold are a Canadian company. They are one of the biggest gold mining companies in the world. They are based in Toronto, Canada. They still own and run mines in Africa, South America, even North America. The government helicopters confiscated over 1 metric ton of gold. The Mali government did not ask for permission, as they do not need to. This is not the first time. In January, they took 3 tons of gold. Barrick Gold makes billions for white shareholders by digging gold and copper from other countries. And because it's not white Canada, they do this in dangerous, reckless, and cheap ways that damage the local ecosystem. The money leaves the country, and Mali has to deal with the consequences. The mine is in western Mali. It's called the Lulo-Gunkunto complex. It's one of the richest gold mines in Africa. It's been active for many years, and the gold that comes out of this mine is usually shipped overseas. The government says Barrick Gold owes them taxes. They say that Barrick and other companies like this should be paying more money to Mali, and so they passed new laws to take more control of gold mining. They say these foreign companies make too much money while Mali gets too little. And it's a valid statement. Let's look at the numbers. Barrick Gold's revenue in 2024 was $12.92 billion. The total GDP of Mali is 26.6 billion. That means one foreign miner's yearly sales equal half the whole Malian economy. The amount of African smuggled gold in 2022 was 435 tons. That is worth $30 billion. Switzerland is the second biggest importer, while the EU humanitarian budget for the entire Sahel region is only 200 million. Gold, worth more than 140 times the EU's Sahel aid budget, is leaving Africa every year and finding its way to Switzerland. In 2019, the IMF urged Mali to improve the business climate. They asked them to streamline tax exemptions for the mining sector. Switzerland markets itself as the human rights champion, yet it remains the core hub for African gold, whose origins often remain undeclared. The same governments that sanction Mali for coups buy its gold and back investor lawsuits against any move by locals to protect themselves from this theft. 20% of Mali's population lives on less than $2 a day. That's 1 in every 5 people. Africa loses about $88 billion a year through these illicit financial flows. The total claims filed by mining companies against African governments exceeds $55.5 billion. Corporations can win bigger payouts than an entire country's health or education budget. West Africa is still under something called the French Treasury lockbox, which means their central banks must keep 50% of foreign exchange reserves in an operations account held by the French Treasury. So Paris still holds a direct grip on the Sahel countries, and it forces them to borrow at incredibly high interest rates for basic services just to keep populations alive. If usury is here, this kind of behavior is off the charts.
Well, Majesty, that's the information. And the truth is that 15,000 US dollar bond on, especially, human beings that you have seen as, people living in a poor third world countries, is just telling them to just remain in your country, do not come to America. And I think that is even for the good of Africa. If we will remain in this continent of ours, this huge amount of money, invest this money. 15,000 US dollar is a huge amount in countries in Africa, especially countries that this bond are being placed on. It's a huge amount. It will be in millions. Okay. So if that amount is, invested in the economy, I think it's for the good of the country. It's high time as Africans we remain in Africa, develop Africa. Yes, we know, we are aware, it's understandable that, the continent, the leadership of the continent of Africa have failed their citizens. In all ramification, we are aware of this fact that they have failed. But I think we can still do better. We can still do better, Your Majesties. We can still remain and develop our nations. Now, we are also aware of the situation in Burkina Faso that the US government have asked that the government of Burkina Faso accept immigrants. And of course, our captain has said no. I don't know if that video is up, but the captain has said no, that he's not going to accept these immigrants. There's a similar thing that happened to Nigeria as of 2 months ago, where the government of Nigeria was forced to accept, asylum seekers like this. And the Nigerian government said no, that they were not going to accept. And it didn't go down well because America placed restrictions on Nigeria. And even when some Nigerians came out, like political analysts were saying that this thing is happening because of the refusal of the government to accept immigrants. And the US government said that was not true. And they gave reasons why they had to restrict Nigeria. And we're all aware that these restrictions came after the government has said that they were not going to accept these asylum seekers. And we also are aware that Rwanda was one of the African countries that, joyfully accepted these immigrants from the US. And we didn't know what was in for them because it was a secret agreement that they had made, from the public eye. And we are now seeing that this same US government is coming to these countries. You say the Sahel is poor. You say the Sahel is not a place to live. Why are you sending more liability to this region where you claim is poor? Why are you sending more liability to the Sahel? You see that these leaders are struggling to stabilize their economy to help their citizens in every way that they can. And you are still sending more responsibility to these people. Come on, are you okay in the head? Yes, they're okay in the head, but they are making these decisions because they don't regard Africans as human beings at all. That is why they are making decisions like this. It's evident in all the dealings that there have been, all the interactions, the dealings that we have seen from time past, that they do not value Africans. And of course, our captain said no, he wasn't going to accept. It was a big no to the American government, and it affected Trump's ego. And he also began restricting. And it was after that this whole restriction in Mali also came through. Now we are seeing that we have leaders in Africa who can also retaliate. Okay? Not just saying no, but also retaliating. If you love me, I'm going to love you, right? If you dislike me, I will also show you the same amount of dislike that you have, shown to me. The same measure. If you love me, I will love you the same measure. Maybe shaking together and running over. But if you show it to me that I am so inferior to you that do not regard me in any way, I think I will show you the same. This is the message from the Sahel. This is the message from Africa. We don't care about your, investment. Remain in your America with your investment. Invest yourself. Develop yourself. Leave Africa alone. And for those Africans who think that the step that these Sahel nations are taking in retaliation to the decisions of American government is not for their good, I want you to sit again and rethink this whole situation. If there is nothing good in the Sahel, in Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, why are Americans in Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger in the thousands? Why are they? You can do your research about this as well to know the number of Americans in Mali, the number of Americans in Burkina Faso and in Niger. I tell you, there are lots of Americans in these countries. So they tell you don't come, but they are there. What do you think about this situation? Leave your thoughts and opinion in the other section. I'm going to see you in my next one. Until then, love yourself, love others, stay safe, stay positive, always your majesties. Bye for now.